The Ark of the Covenant was no ordinary box. It was the most sacred object in ancient Israel, crafted according to God's specific instructions in Exodus 25. It was overlaid with gold, held the stone tablets of the Ten Commandments, a pot of manna, and Aaron's budding rod. But more than a container, the ark represented the very presence of God among his people. When the priests lifted it upon their shoulders, something supernatural always followed. And what happened next? It wasn't just religious ceremony, it was divine activity that reshaped history. We first see the ark's power fully revealed during Israel's entrance into the Promised Land. In Joshua 3, the Israelites stood at the banks of the Jordan River, swollen and impassable during harvest. God commanded the priests to carry the ark before the people. And then, the moment their feet touched the edge of the water, the Jordan stopped flowing. The water stood up in a heap far upstream, and the people crossed on dry ground, just like the Red Sea. But this time, the ark was at the center. God made it clear. Where the ark went, his power followed. But the ark didn't stop moving after that. In Joshua 6, during the famous Battle of Jericho, God gave a bizarre command. Instead of attacking the city, Israel was to march around it once a day, for 6 days. And on the 7th day, circle it 7 times with the ark, leading the way. The priests blew trumpets, the people shouted, and the impenetrable walls of Jericho collapsed. What brought those walls down? Not military might, but obedience, and the presence of God symbolized by the ark. This moment teaches us that when we move in step with God's presence, obstacles fall. Later, during the time of 1 Samuel, the Israelites carried the ark into battle against the Philistines, thinking it would guarantee victory. But they treated it more like a magic box than a sacred trust. Tragically, the Philistines defeated Israel and captured the ark. This moment was so devastating that Eli the priest fell over and died when he heard the news. His daughter-in-law even named her newborn son Ichabod, meaning the glory has departed. But the ark in Philistine hands brought unexpected consequences. In 1 Samuel 5, the Philistines placed the ark in the temple of their god Dagon. The next morning, they found Dagon fallen face down before the ark. They set him back up. But the next day he had fallen again, this time with his head and hands broken off. Then plagues began sweeping through their cities. Eventually, they begged to return the ark to Israel, placing it on a cart pulled by cows. Even the enemies of God couldn't deny the ark's holy power. Back in Israel, the ark rested for years, but it wasn't always treated with reverence. In 2 Samuel 6, King David attempted to bring the ark to Jerusalem, but instead of having the priests carry it on their shoulders as commanded in Numbers 7-9, he placed it on a cart. When the oxen stumbled, a man named Uzzah reached out to steady the ark, and God struck him dead on the spot. The lesson was painfully clear. God's holiness is not to be managed or touched lightly. David was grieved, and the ark was left at the house of Obed-Edom for 3 months, where it brought blessings. When David finally brought it to Jerusalem, the right way, carried by priests, with singing and dancing, God honored the moment with joy. Eventually, the ark found a home in the Temple of Solomon, placed in the most holy place behind the veil. In 2 Chronicles 5, when the ark was set in place and the priests played music and worshipped, the glory of the Lord filled the temple like a cloud, so intense that the priests couldn't even stand to minister. This shows us the connection between worship and God's manifest presence. Where the ark was honored, God's glory came in power. But after that, the ark's trail becomes mysterious. During the Babylonian conquest in 586 BC, the temple was destroyed. The ark disappeared from the biblical record. Some believe it was hidden by priests to protect it. Others suggest it was taken, lost, or destroyed. Yet the book of Revelation gives us a hint of its ultimate location. Revelation 11:19 says, "Then God's temple in heaven was opened, and within his temple was seen the ark of his covenant." Whether literal or symbolic, it reminds us that the presence of God is not confined to earth but reigns in heaven. What can we learn from what happened after the priests carried the ark? First, God moves when his presence is honored. Wherever the ark went, whether into rivers, battlefields, or temples, God acted, but only when carried rightly, with reverence and obedience. Second, the ark wasn't magic, it was a covenant sign. Victory came not from the object itself, but from the relationship it represented. Third, God's glory follows holiness. The ark reminded Israel that God is not to be controlled, ignored, or casually approached. And for us today, Jesus became our new covenant. The veil that once hid the ark's glory in the temple was torn when Jesus died on the cross. Now, his presence doesn't rest in a golden box but within his people. 1 Corinthians 6:19 says, "Our bodies are now temples of the Holy Spirit." We don't carry the ark, we carry his Spirit. But the principle remains. When we walk in obedience, honor his presence, and move in faith, God still shows up.